I need my melting spot back. So while I'm reclaiming it, I'll do a little bit of a post-mortem. Here's a nice classic example. So one of my wedges, which was obviously outside, inside, and this part right here has become, let's see if I can find, here we go. This part right here has become pretty much terracotta. Whereas this part here is still clay. It rained here several days while I was gone, so it's nice because it allows me to see what's clay and what's not, and I'm going to keep some of the stuff that's still clay. Why not? I went to a lot of work to get it. That's a chimney piece, pretty much baked right through. Another chimney piece, there's the tape. Here's the dust that I was pulling out of the thing. Now it's all wet. Again, I think it's probably partly ash and partly unmelted ore, and it's all trash. My working model was that if it looked like terracotta, it went in the trash can, and if it didn't look like terracotta, it went in one of these cans. I will just have to give that some time. I don't really have time for clay right now. I'm going to put some water on it and cap it up and leave it for a couple of months. I'll come back and revisit that later. I found another couple pieces of cook. This is from my neck. I think low in the neck because that's smooth enough. It was probably sitting on the ring and there's some plaster on it there. So this is lower neck. All this stuff will be saved for later rigorous scientific evaluation. Lower chimney, you can see the chimney. Just a big drip again. I think it's just melted clay. Here are my tuyères. This is what they looked like when they were new. You can see what a few hard heating sessions will do. You might remember I broke one of my cups and used them to make shields over the ends of my tuyères, and there they are. Kind of cool the way they're coated with drippy. Again, it all appears to just be glass. It's not like I'm seeing a massive quantity of iron dripping off of these things, but they are cool in appearance. Well, we'll have to turn our attention to the stuff that came out of the device rather than the device itself for a bit. I ground this off flat so that you could get a look at the air bubbles and inclusions and so on in this slag. What's really fun though is if you turn it this way, it's going to be hard to see, but that right there, that shiny spot, my friends, that is iron. I did actually manage to smelt iron. I identified that because as I was grinding that off, it started sparking, so it's clearly iron. Let's go inside and do a spark test on that and see if we can figure out just what kind of iron it is. I've never done a spark test before, but I've read about it and I've watched it on YouTube, so let's see what happens. So as I spark test these relatively high carbon steels, you can see that they're quite bright white, and there are sort of splits in the sparks, so the sparks kind of pop up into like little fireworks. They're not all straight. Apparently, and I'm no expert, but that's apparently characteristic of high carbon steels. That was a good one with the drill bit. You could really see that in that particular instance. We'll move on to a lower carbon steel now. So I've been spark testing a lot of different relatively high carbon iron alloys. I guess you could call those steels, because it turns out it's rather hard to find low carbon iron alloys, or wrought irons, if you will. And typically, from what I'm reading, a Bloomery furnace produces low carbon iron alloys, i.e. wrought iron, unless you load the Bloomery incorrectly or give it too much charcoal. This nail is likely a hand wrought nail from probably before 1800. These are typically made of wrought iron. It's hard to be completely certain of the provenance, because you can buy reproduction nails like this, but I actually pulled this out of a beam in a house that I know was built before 1800, so it probably is a low carbon iron alloy. So let's go ahead and spark test this one. So when you spark test this one, the defining characteristic is not really the color or length of the spark, it's the fact that it doesn't have those splits. It doesn't have all those little sort of firework ends that you see with a high carbon steel. So that seems to be the primary differentiator between a low carbon alloy and a higher carbon alloy. So then let's do a little kind of side-by-side comparison between the stuff that I got out of the Bloomery and that stuff. So don't worry about the fact that the number of sparks is lower. It's a much smaller piece of iron and it's kind of surrounded by slag, but if you look, they're straight, they don't have any splits. So that's going to kind of indicate that it's probably a low carbon iron alloy that we're looking at here coming out of the Bloomery, which is consistent with what I would expect. What I have learned is that there actually is iron in this stuff, which is incredibly exciting. There's a little speck right there. In fact, it's in almost every piece if you know how to look for it. The real problem is, though, that the inclusions are incredibly tiny, which means that they're really very hard to separate from all of the slag. So if I want to do any kind of a quantitative finding on this, I'm going to have to ball mill all of this stuff. And in order to do that, I want to introduce you to the newest member of the Don't Try This at Home family. This is my ball mill's big brother. So I'm going to fill those babies up and roll in some breakers, and we'll give that a couple of weeks, and I'll be back with a more quantitative analysis of just exactly how much iron I have. But in the meantime, please feel free to like and subscribe if you want, or don't if you don't want. Tell your friends. Again, don't if you don't want, that's fine too. Thanks very much for watching, and have a great day.